And welcome back to Zanpakuto Creation Series. Today's suggestion comes to us from Omega Prime, who asked the question, what is Ben Tennyson's Zanpakuto? Now, keep in mind, a Zanpakuto is not inherently something where you take an ability from someone and convert it into a sword. A Zanpakuto is supposed to be a reflection of you, your soul. I always feel like I just have to reiterate this point because we leave for a month to do the quirk series and then come back. So it's always just good to reiterate and bring up the point of what this Zanpakuto more or less is, and or what Zanpakuto is and what a Zanpakuto does because of that. With that said, Ben definitely strikes me, looking at people with similar personalities, as someone who's akin to like an Ikaku, Renji, Ichigo type. He's definitely a little headstrong, quick to action, quick to charge in, but that doesn't make him a bad person, and B, it doesn't mean he wouldn't have something a bit more nuanced than just a melee type like Ikaku has. Renji has a little bit above a melee type. His Shikai's in melee with one Keto type ability, and his Bankai has one Keto ability as well. And Ichigo technically has a Keto ability with Getsuga Tensho. It's just not classified as Keto. So people like that would definitely be a good comparison for Ben. Given Ben, the fact that Ben isn't dumb, he just doesn't apply himself to school very much. And the fact he's a bit headstrong, I liken him to something akin to a melee / Keto-esque type Zanpakuto. It'd be a standard katana in sealed form. Its name its release would be, in my opinion, Run and Never Look Back, Razor Wolf, or Kamisori Okami, or Reza Ufu. I like Kamisori Okami better. It's Bankai. The name I follow is having a little trouble kind of figuring out. I knew Wolf still had to be in there, or something akin to that. But the idea, basically, with most wolves, at least when I use them in the Zanpakuto, is that it turns into a pack of wolves on some level. Now, maybe I'll move away from that at some point, and maybe that's not a bad way to move with this one. But for now, it's still a pack of wolves is the name that takes. It'd be the blinding blades of the or blinding pack's razor maw, basically. Essentially, the pack of wolves' razor bladed maw in their mouth, which rough. Oh God, Brandingo Paku Rizoma or Mitsu Paku Rizoma, something akin to that. Not surprising, the spirit of Zanpakuto would be a wolf. Probably a pretty raggedy looking wolf with its fur almost looking like a mane. It's so bushy and looking surprisingly sharp and pointed. The Shikai, I initially had the idea for like a lance, but when I thought about it, we don't get many Zanpakuto more akin to this, which kind of take the shape of their spirit. So what I kind of turned to liken it to more is that he technically is one Zanpakuto, but it's essentially it's two gauntlets, more or less, that form the bottom jaw and the top jaw and head of a wolf. And these gauntlets extend out at least a foot, and probably more, as razor blade, as sharpened sword blades, gauntlets, if you will. So he can use it in melee combat, no problem. But basically, what the Keto ability of this is when he brings his hands together, clasp them together. If you ever clasp your hands together, you know, intertwine the fingers, almost like a mouth locking, and basically snaps the wolf's jaw. It creates the howl effect, which does like a Keto-based sonic howl, or it could just fire a Keto blast, something along those lines. And basically, I think it's probably closer to a Keto blast, like an energy, because it's kind of like how Zaka Tempo or Hihigo Zabimaru, the original Zabimaru Bankai, it had its cannon attack. Something like that. It wouldn't necessarily be like a final attack, it'd just be a ability it has, and this represents the wolf's howl. The Bankai of this, though, the wolf would most there's two ways I think you could interpret the Bankai. One, and I think this is probably the more likely, he's no longer wearing his Zanpakuto. The Zanpakuto has manifested in the wolf itself. Not necessarily like an organic creature, but like a wolf made of blades or a metal wolf or something like that can still do all the same effects, but now unleash it raises the cackles of its fur and it becomes this monster death wolf. The other way I think you could go about it, and I think I like this one better, is the wolf's head is no longer his arms, but it's a giant floating wolf's head behind you. And basically, it immediately comes to your aid. It acts as both a shield. It still has blades that come out of its wolf's mane that you can use for combat. But the wolf head bites down. It is just swords and spiritual pressure and blades, so it's going to rip people apart, swallow them whole, incinerate them in its glowing maw. Or it can unleash its full howl, where it just decimates the landscape. So that I think I like a bit better. And look, the ideal wolf works I think with Ben, because Ben, it can works a lot as a solo act, but works well in a group, aka a pack versus the lone wolf. And I like this idea for someone like him, who is still very childish, even in his most mature states, except for like adult Ben. Who, and then as he matures, learning to be an alpha, all that kind of stuff, the leader of the pack, if you will. But for someone who's a little immature but still can take things seriously, knows it's time to get to work, all that, and is certainly not an idiot. It's just selective intelligence. I like this concept for a Zanpakuto for a character like him. Now, what would the weaknesses of the Zanpakuto be? Surprisingly, it's a well-rounded Zanpakuto in terms of range combat. It's mostly a close-range weapon when you're dealing with Shikai, but it has a mid to long-range attack with a howl, we'll call it. Beyond that, though, it doesn't have much in the way of abilities beyond the howl, but still, that's pretty good. It has no. That being said, it is still the standard Shinigami issue of Ryatsu power over Ryatsu. It is a line of sight kind of thing, and it's, well, not line of sight. You fire straight, you just better be aiming right. And it's only in one direction. This isn't like Zenbone Sakura where it can attack from any direction, move in any way. No, it's simply a straight shot. The Bankai mitigates, I think, a lot of those weaknesses. It now adds actually defense. It can still give you offense by pulling extra blades out. It's got the howl as a large range weapon. That thing being said, though, if someone with a strong enough ability, or like say he goes up against say a Ryujin Jaka, theoretically the wolf could be incinerated. If he goes up against Zaka no Tachi, it's going to be snuffed out of existence. It has no immunity to Keto per se. It's just got a good defensive property as the giant wolf head, and even that could theoretically be destroyed, or at least beaten down, or damaged, or whatever. So it's certainly not a infallible Zanpakuto by any stretch of the means, but I think it's a cool idea for a Zanpakuto. The more we get into this series, the longer I do this series, I will admit it gets a little tricky to design Zanpakuto because a lot of the base ideas were already taken in Bleach. I have to either expand on ideas that are already introduced into different concepts, or I have to think of brand new abilities on the spot. It does get a little daunting after a while, because you are going to see a little bit of rinse and repeat over a certain course of time, because certain people, we know there are multiple types of Zanpakuto within a certain type. Multiple fire elementals of the same type, multiple melee types of Zanpakutos that probably take on a similar form, like a spear. Hell, what was it? The original Squad 8 captain, first one, the girl with the glasses and the big bust, she has a similar weapon to Ikaku. So, they're not the exact same. Hers is not a 3-section staff, but they're still spears. His just takes the form of a 3-section staff. So, yeah, eventually you are going to see rinse and repeat of a lot of Zanpakuto, at least in terms of certain concepts. But I'm glad I can still try to keep original ideas fresh. Anyway, though, that's what I thought. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Like, comment, share, subscribe, and I'll see you folks for the next one. Have a good one.